Hi, my name is Teju, and I'm on the product marketing team here at Okta, and you're listening to the Meet Your Okta Identity Expert podcast. So, this is a series of podcasts where we bring in Okta's professional services experts to share their experiences and knowledge of how they've managed our customers' identities in today's landscape. And at Okta, I focus specifically on our security products like multi-factor authentication, adaptive authentication, and then all of the products that we integrate with to help customers better secure their organization. So for today's podcast, we're going to discuss some of the more common security challenges that our customers face, and we'll be speaking with Brent Arrington on our professional services team. Hi, Brent. Welcome.
Hi, Teju. Thanks for having me.
So before we dive into our topic, we'd like to learn a little bit more about you. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to Okta?
Absolutely. So I've been in the IT field for about 20 years, I suppose. I started out as a software engineer, kind of in the original .com boom in the late 90s. Spent some time as a Java developer, and then moved into more customer-facing roles in pre-sales and post-sales professional services. Before that, I've been everything from a Java instructor to a high school English teacher to a university bus driver, and I might have snuck in some unofficial karaoke nights during that job. I won't officially confirm or deny that, but yeah. And as far as what brought me to Okta, it's a bit of a roundabout story, but technically you could say it's my forehand. I play a lot of tennis here in Atlanta, and you meet a lot of people that way. And I actually met a guy playing tennis that ended up getting me a job with a startup here in Atlanta, which got me some very specific technical experience, which eventually got me some exposure, which got me a job with a company in LA who actually, I guess it was a couple of people who hired me who ended up leaving that company and moving to Okta. And then after about a year or so, they brought me over to Okta. So it's kind of a long and winding road, but ultimately you could say it's because of my forehand that I'm here.
Awesome. Thanks for the story.
Yeah.
So what do you think of yourself as far as the Okta identity expert, and what makes you the identity expert that our customers trust?
As far as the trust that customers have in us, it starts with Okta. I mean, the reputation that Okta has when I walk in the door gives me a lot of credibility just walking in the door, and then it's just up to me not to blow it. But then the culture of Okta itself also, I've been a number of different places, and I can honestly say that Okta is one of the few places where we're actually empowered to be completely honest and upfront with our customers and offer them the best solutions for them, not necessarily the best solution for Okta or Okta's licensing or getting us as deeply entrenched as possible. We really are free to design solutions that are actually best for the customer. And then lastly, just the team that we have here at Okta. Like I said, it's a little awkward for me to promote myself as an expert, but I can very comfortably say that I'm surrounded by a whole company full of experts. So whenever there are problems that maybe I don't have the best solution for, or maybe haven't had a chance to encounter, there's a guarantee that there's somebody at Okta that has, and there's always plenty of resources available internally.
All right. Yeah, great. Thanks for the background there. So it sounds like you've worked with a lot of customers and you have a lot of experience in the industry. Can you tell us a little bit more about the number of customers you've worked with, and actually more so the types of customers that you've helped, like the different environments that you've seen, some of the consistent issues that you see around security and identity challenges with customers?
Sure. Yeah. So I've actually been around at Okta for a while now. I'm kind of an old timer. I'm coming up on 6 years at Okta. And I've had a number of different roles during my time here. When I first started, actually, I was kind of a one-man shop running our Okta Cloud Connect product, which, if you're not familiar, it's essentially a kind of a trial version of the product or a freemium version of the product where you can integrate a single application with an on-prem directory for single sign-on, multi-factor, et cetera, et cetera. And I basically was a one-person PS shop for all of those implementations when I first started. So I got a chance to see a lot of different customers. I think by the time I finished up with that particular role, I was averaging over 100 go lives per quarter, just me. So it was very much a rapid fire sort of implementation paradigm there, but got a chance to see a lot of different customers. And in that particular role, as you might imagine, a lot of smaller shops with less in-house staffing, less in-house resources. And now the past several years, I've been with the Enterprise East PS team. And there you see typically a lot more kind of larger, more kind of traditional companies, companies that are very, that, have grown either through mergers and acquisitions or just naturally, and they've got a lot of different divisions, a lot of different groups within the companies. There's different political challenges, different technical challenges with various different environments that are trying to be integrated into one. And then also a lot of public sector as well. So we handle a lot of our government public sector implementations, which is a world unto its own as far as the the customer type is concerned. So I've seen kind of a wide range of customer types, and probably hundreds of customers over the years that I've been here. When you combine all the OCC customers with all of the enterprise and public sector customers, so pretty good mix.
Yeah, definitely. So thinking more about the customers that you've worked with in the past, what are some of the key questions that you think about or ask questions or ask to the customer before engaging with them or before starting on a project with them?
Right. So, I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but the first thing is just to identify the pain points, right? Like what is really the root cause of the pain point? Who is it that's experiencing the pain point? And oftentimes there are sort of competing interests here. So, the security group may have a particular pain point, and maybe end users or application owners may have a different pain point that runs contrary to what what the security team wants to do. So, kind of identifying all the stakeholders, all the different pain points for each of those stakeholders, and how we can strike the best balance for a solution.
Got it. And I know it's kind of hard to generalize amongst customers, but do you have an example of how a typical customer engagement might go specific to an identity project? So, for example, what problems are they trying to solve with Okta?
Right. So, it runs the gamut, honestly. I think partly because of my background, I tend to, because I have more of a development background, I tend to get thrown onto projects that include a bit more customization. So projects that require a little more API work, that type of thing. And because of that, the types of customers who tend to want that type of thing are customers who have challenges around various different user populations that they're trying to merge under a single roof, maybe different siloed identity populations that they're trying to kind of merge together for shared resources. Maybe there are branding issues across those different groups. So maybe they want a different login experience for one group versus another. Centralized management of security policies, but still the flexibility to allow different teams to manage those policies. So those are the types of customers that I tend to see, and that's true either whether it's or enterprise customers or public sector customers. There tends to be a lot of segmentation within the organization itself, and a lot of times there's a decent amount of customization that we need to take into account to provide them the experience that they want, and still leveraging a cloud platform.
Yeah, and I've kind of noticed the same thing and the same challenges with customers. So regardless of the size, whether it's like a small or large customer, it kind of seems like we can bucket them into different stages of their IAM deployment. So usually when we see customers in the very, very early stage, they have like many Active Directory forests, not maybe some of those forests don't even have trust between them. But then you move on to the second stage where maybe you've implemented like SSO and MFA amongst cloud applications, and then the later stages where you've implemented contextual access. I think there's still very few organizations that are in those later stages that have gotten to that contextual and adaptive access pieces of it, but hoping to see that progress as more customers start to implement Okta. So going back to the customers that you've worked with, when a customer reaches out to the Okta professional services team, why is it actually that they reach out to us, and what kind of support are they looking for in their implementation? And what were they looking for you from you throughout the course of the project?
Sure. So, I think first and foremost, a lot of the customers that we work with are looking for thought leadership from us. They want best practices, not just around, security questions, but also the technologies, communication, rollout strategies, our project execution expertise. It really boils down to, the things that you need to do to effectively, establish a stronger security position for yourself are not really a mystery. I mean, there's some pretty obvious steps that you can take to do that. Things like, setting stronger password policies, requiring more frequent password resets. Above all, MFA on everything. Right? These are not mysteries, but the challenge comes in how do you effectively roll that out in a way that you don't get a riot from your end users or from your application owners or management when the rollout doesn't go as smoothly as you would like. So it really is kind of the expertise in how to implement these things the right way or the best way for your organization, that I think is the biggest value that our professional services team adds.
Yeah, that makes sense. And since you've worked with, a large number of customers, you've probably seen other identity tools that may have been in place prior to them and those customers implementing Okta. So in your opinion, what does Okta's solution provide that maybe other vendors don't?
Sure. So, I mean, like most, kind of robust identity platforms, we have a pretty robust policy structure in place. So there's a fair amount of customization that we can do around policies for different groups of users. With the adaptive policies that we have now, we can identify specific behaviors and apply different policies based on those behaviors. I think the big differentiator for us, as opposed to some of the legacy systems, is the user experience piece, right? The Okta user experience around MFA, around self-service for credentials, is so much superior to a lot of the older legacy systems that it really, one of the biggest pushbacks that we tend to get from customers is really just kind of a fear of how horrible the experience is going to be when we implement things like MFA or we implement different security policies. And when you actually get a chance to kind of show them what that looks like with Okta, they're like, "Wait, is that all? is that really all it amounts to?" So the user experience is something that I think is a big differentiator for us.
Yeah, and I actually noticed the same. So, as part of the product marketing role, I talk to analysts like Forrester and Gartner fairly often, and the conversations with them are good because they give us some good insight into not just the IAM market, but also how customers view Okta in general. So a lot of times people don't immediately think of IAM as like a security tool necessarily, but if you take a look at the research from like Gartner, for example, they've published some research indicating that the IAM market and identity as a service and user authentication actually still remain the biggest categories of cloud-based security services. So then as we're working with customers through professional services or through just engineering in general, you think about the rapid growth rate of cloud-based identity services, that means more customers are going to look to companies like Okta to offer them a solution that can get them up and running quickly, kind of like what you said. They compare our technology to legacy and find that it's much faster to get Okta up and running. And then along with that, I mean, it's not just about the end user experience and security, it's also about just improving business processes and reducing the overhead that you see with on-prem legacy tools. So it definitely aligns with what you're seeing in the field, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm seeing. And it's funny, like a lot of the integrations that we have, like the first time around when we're working with an initial project with a customer, typically a lot of the work that we do is work to kind of integrate with a legacy system to sort of maintain backwards compatibility with a legacy system. And I can't tell you how many times we come back to customers with follow-up projects, after having worked with them before, and these solutions that we built for them in order to maintain legacy systems, by the time we come back around the second time, those things are gone now. So the move is definitely to the cloud.
Yeah. And do you ever run into customers that are looking for a solution that Okta might not actually have out of box?
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, I think Probably partly because of my background in development. That tends to be the majority of projects that I get thrown onto. We see a lot of implementations that involve API work with Okta. I think the great thing about Okta, or from my perspective, one of the great things about Okta is it's really a platform, and it's a product built on a platform. And so while the off-the-shelf product may not do everything that every customer needs it to do, you could just about make it do anything you need it to do through the API. So there's a good bit of flexibility there, for organizations that need very specific use cases. So I see a lot of that, and I see a lot of joint integrations with other vendors where maybe there are portions of an overall solution that a customer needs that are not really in Okta's wheelhouse, or at least not yet. And we've had a lot of success partnering with other vendors for certain pieces of implementations. And the interesting thing about that is I've seen a number of projects where we have kind of a joint solution with another vendor, but the customer really looks to Okta to lead the overall implementation, whether or not Okta's piece ends up being the biggest piece from a technical perspective or not. They really trust Okta for the thought leadership and the expertise to actually execute on a project and on a solution.
Yeah. Thanks, Brent. Definitely good insight in working with customers. So you've definitely been at Okta for a while now, right? You said 6 years, but it sounds like you're still very happy and positive working with customers on a daily basis. So what is it that you like about helping customers with their challenges in the identity space?
Right. So I spent a year as a high school English teacher, so anything is an improvement on on that as far as dealing with customers. It's a joy to deal with customers compared to high school teenagers. But it's fun. I enjoy the technical aspects of the job, but it's nice to actually interact with people as well. Like I definitely enjoy the customer interaction more than just sitting behind a computer all day. So it's definitely fun. And as far as helping with cloud solutions specifically, it's really kind of all I know. I got my start developing cloud applications before they were called cloud applications. So I like to think that I learned identity the right way as opposed to all the legacy ways of doing things.
And what would you tell our listeners who want to get started with enhancing their security and identity strategy?
Call us. We can help. But no, seriously, I think the main thing is, as I stated earlier, just trying to really identify exactly what is the goal, what are the pain points, and what does the ideal end result look like, and trying to figure out what the best balance is between security posture versus end user experience, and just being prepared to have a good put together a good argument to to fight for a little stronger security posture. A lot of times there's sort of an assumption that that's going to mean a poor end user experience, but it doesn't have to. And there are a lot of things that we can do to make the experience better, and we can actually demo some of those things and kind of show users and app owners what that experience can look like. So don't be afraid to push for stronger security.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So in closing, I'd like to summarize some of the items that we've talked about with Brent today. So the first one, just keep in mind that the size of your company doesn't actually matter. Okta does offer technology that optimizes identity and access management for customers of any size. So you'll see that we have customers that maybe are as small as 100 employees versus customers that are as large as over 100,000 employees. So really, regardless of the size of your organization, we can definitely help to optimize your IAM strategy. And then the second thing is that Okta can help with your rollout strategy across all of our products. So implementing IAM can't be done in a day in most cases, and you want to make sure that end users are aware of the changes that are going to happen as a result of implementing tools like single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. And as Brent was talking about with us, our professional services team can definitely help with that. And then the last takeaway, I think, from this conversation is that Of course, Okta has out-of-the-box integrations to thousands of different applications, and those are all available in the Okta integration network. But if you are in a scenario where your app may not exist in Okta already, don't worry, because we can create app templates in Okta. We can use our APIs, as Brent mentioned, if you're building your own custom applications, or there's even scenarios where we can partner with other vendors depending on your use case so that we can ensure that that use case is met. So Brent, thanks again for joining us today and sharing some of your experiences and advice based on what you've seen with customers. And to our audience, thank you for joining us, and be sure to stay tuned for another session of Meet Your Okta Identity Expert podcast. Thank you.